Hello, my fellow Whovians and subscribers. Welcome to my latest Doctor Who review. Today I review The Deadly Assassin, which is the third story of season 14 and stars Tom Baker as the fourth Doctor. And it's the 88th Doctor Who story overall, so wow. Okay, so The Deadly Assassin. The plot of this story is as follows. Through the millennia, the Time Lords of Gallifrey led a life of peace and ordered calm, protected against all threats from lesser civilizations by their great power. But this was to change. Suddenly and terribly, the Time Lords faced the most dangerous crisis in their long history. And just kind of adding to that, basically, the further story involves the Master, in his disfigured form, sending a message to the Doctor, a false message, which he thinks is from the Time Lords, in ordering him to come to Gallifrey because the Master is framing the Doctor for killing the President of the Time Lords. And then it's up to the Doctor to go into this virtual computer-like thing called the Matrix, where the Doctor battles it out against the Master's minions, and he has to stop the Master from opening the Eye of Harmony, which is like a massive key that unlocks the power for the Master to achieve more regenerations, which of course he wants to do because the Master has used up all of his regenerations and he's on the cusp of death. And that's kind of it. I hope I've explained that okay. So, The Deadly Assassin. This is a very popular Doctor Who story. It's very highly regarded, and it is my good friend and good subscriber, Jack the Film Fanatic. This is his all-time favourite Doctor Who story. Well, Jack, I don't blame you. Absolutely fantastic. This story is a masterpiece. The Deadly Assassin is a work of art. It is a masterpiece. It is fantastic. I cannot express how much I love this story. It blew me away. I mean, wow, it is really good. And, you know, it does the very interesting thing, actually, of being the first Doctor Who story where the Doctor is companionless. This is the very first story of the entire show, I think, where the Doctor doesn't have a companion. Obviously, Mission to the Unknown with William Hartnell, that story wasn't really about the Doctor. That was a Doctorless story and a companionless story. But this is the first story where the Doctor is there, but the companion isn't there. And there's not many of those stories, but it actually really works for this story. Tom Baker is outstanding in this story. This is Tom Baker's best performance by far. I mean, I haven't seen all of Tom Baker's stories, but out of what I've seen so far, this is his best story. The Doctor goes through so much in this story. It is insane what he has to do. I mean, the fact is, not having a companion with him actually raises the stakes as well. Because, I mean, even the Time Lord allies that he has can't really help him because when he's stuck inside the Matrix, he is literally stuck there on his own, unarmored, you know, defenseless, completely defenseless. And he's got battling these hallucinations. I mean, the Matrix is explained to can create any image, and the Doctor is fighting off, you know, planes, trains, automobiles, and an evil samurai guard who tries to cut him off of the cliff. He fights Chancellor Goth in the jungle, and that fight is brutal. I love that fight. It's really interesting how we actually see the Doctor achieving a lot more blood wounds. He actually is wounded and battered in this story physically. He is drained in this story. He is up against it, and my God, Tom Baker really is convincing in this story. But also, he has to deal with the fact that he is up against it in terms of the legal battles. Not legal. He has to also convince the Time Lords that he did not kill the president, which of course is true, but he actually had a rifle in his hand. He spotted the rifle, but he noticed he was framed for the murder, and that was a really intense sequence as well. And this story has so much tension. Like I've already mentioned about the Matrix scenes, particularly that jungle scene is very intense. There's a long period of isolated scenes where Tom Baker is on his own, the Doctor is on his own. They put a lot of focus on that when he's like, and he's struggling to keep going. He's like crawling through the grass. He gets shot, he gets battered, he gets beaten, and he's like, I've got to carry on. I've got to carry on. He doesn't even have any jelly babies in this story, so he really is on his own. But what also that this story does is it actually adds to the Time Lords lore and Gallifrey. The fact that this story is set in Gallifrey is amazing. We haven't been to Gallifrey, I think, since the War Games with Patrick Troughton, so this is a really nice return. And I really like some of the supporting cast in this story. I think they're really good. We've got Llewellyn Reese, who plays the President. I mean, he's not in the story that much, but he's quite good. Chancellor Goth, played by Bernard Horsfall, he's very good. And obviously, it turns out he's not who he seems to be, which is kind of fun. Castellan Spandrel. Castellan turns out to be a bit of a bastard as well. So there's a few people that aren't there, that aren't who they seem to be. You've got Barusa, who is a cardinal. And he's the Doctor's former teacher, and he's quite good in his little role. Commentator Runcible, who's the young guy who says what's going on in the ceremony with the president and everything, and the Doctor's looking on his monitor and he can see him and whatnot. No, he's the young guy. He's dressed in white. He's quite good. I like him in his little role. I guess the only other person to mention is the Master. The Master in this story is played by Peter Pratt, and the Master looks very different in this story. He's disfigured. He's completely decrepit. Think of like Emperor Palpatine in Star Wars. Like, he wears a hood over his head, but his face is all messed up, and his hands are all wrinkly and deformed. Like, he's almost getting to the point of disfigurement, and you really feel the desperation from the Master. He really is just up against it. I mean, while yes, no one can ever truly replace Roger Delgado, but I think Peter Pratt does a pretty good job, actually, and I like the voice of the Master. I think he makes the Master seem quite creepy, actually, and it's just very different to Roger Delgado's version of the Master, which, of course, sadly we don't have. I mean, perhaps if Delgado had lived, we may have had him in this story as the Master. Maybe the story would have been written a bit differently. But Peter Pratt as the Master, he's very good. I'm not sure how many other times he appears in the show, but if this is his only appearance, then great job. There's a great fight at the end when he's trying to open the Eye of Harmony, and the Doctor and him are constantly throwing each other around and whatnot. That's really good. There's a lot of brutality with this story. It's physically quite brutal. It's a very, I think it's a much more harder Doctor Who story. You feel the tension much more. It's not so much scary. I think it's more tension built. But some of the hallucinations can be quite scary, and you really see actually the fear in the Doctor's face when he gets his foot caught in the train track, and he thinks he's going to get run over, but then he starts to realize that it's all an illusion, and he keeps saying, I deny this world. I deny it. I will fight you in this world, but I deny it. And Tom Baker is giving it everything. He really is. There's so many great moments in this story. I mean, it's hard to kind of name my favorite. I do really like the sets of this story, particularly Gallifrey. Gallifrey looks phenomenal, and you can clearly see Russell T Davies in the new series had taken inspiration from these sets, because when we get to the David Tennant era, they do revisit Gallifrey, and they show similar costumes and the similar design of the Citadel and everything. So that's nice. That's really nice. And this story kind of ends on a bit of a downer. I mean, the whole Gallifrey is destroyed. I mean, more or less, the city of Gallifrey is kind of ruined because of the Master, and they sort of blame the Doctor, but they don't really. They do say, oh well, we owe the Doctor a certain debt, but they want him to go. They don't want the Doctor to hang around, because I think they think that there'll be a much more danger if the Doctor is around. So yeah, Tom Baker reluctantly goes at the end, but well, not reluctantly. Sorry, they reluctantly say, just get out of here, Doctor, just go. Which is nice. There's some great funny moments too, like Tom Baker's again got a couple of humorous moments in there, but this is a more serious story. There's even a moment where the Doctor is being tortured inside a prison, which is really good. It's a thrilling story, and it's a very pacey story. It's 4 parts long, but it is some of the best 4 parts I've ever sat through. Every single part moves like a rocket. It is so good. It is really well written. I mean, the script. Who wrote the script? Robert Holmes. Robert Holmes, a great writer. I mean, no wonder he came back. I mean, Robert Holmes is absolutely phenomenal with this script. I mean, he wrote such stories as like The Mind Robber as well. I mean, that was a terrific story. this is Summer Doctor Who at its best, and it adds to the lore of the show as well, with the Time Lords and everything. We've never had this much focus on the Time Lords before, which is brilliant. And this is far and away my favourite story with Tom Baker so far. And his performance is outstanding. There is a reason why they cast this guy as the Doctor, and you can see it here if you watch this story. You know, this story will tell you why Tom Baker is the Doctor. There we go. What else is there to say? Oh, the director, David Maloney, directs the story. He keeps it moving, he keeps it tight, he keeps it going, and there is a lot of death in this story. I mean, well, it's called The Deadly Assassin, isn't it? So, the Master is ruthless. He is literally running out of time. He's on the cusp of death, and he will stop at nothing to get what he wants. And I really do. I mean, obviously, the Master isn't really in it as much as, say, Delgado would have been, you know, in one of the Pertwee stories. But the Master's fairly hidden in the first half of the story, but then he starts to reveal himself a bit more in part 3 and then part 4. Part 3 is probably my favourite. My favourite sequence is that sequence in The Matrix, which is when the Doctor is running away from all those things and he's battling the minion, and it's oh god, it's just so good. It's terrific. It really is. If I had any complaints, and believe me, this is like literally the pickiest of nits. Perhaps the music isn't quite as good as it could be, but that's a minor thing. Don't let that distract you, because I mean the music is all right, but it could be a bit more. It could be slightly more tension filled, but honestly, that really isn't a problem because this story is just phenomenal. And it doesn't stop me from giving this story an easy 10 out of 10. Yes, 10 out of 10. Absolutely phenomenal story. And for one of the few companionless stories, I'm sold. You know, fantastic. And yeah, that's it. That's my review of The Deadly Assassin. So stay tuned next time when we talk about The Face of Evil. And yeah, once again, Jack the Film Fanatic, this is his favourite story of all time, and I can totally see why. Great choice, Jack. Great choice. So next time, we're introduced to the new companion as well, Leela, which is, I think it's Leela. Yes, Leela. So that will be fun. So until next time, thank you all for watching, and as always, I'm Mr. TARDIS 11. See you soon.